Trump's no tax on Social Security versus the House standard deduction increase for seniors. What is better? Interesting. My boys over here at the Tax Foundation, big Alex Durante, big fan of the Tax Foundation, except their take on tariffs. They are despised tariffs, and they couldn't be further from the truth. Tariffs are crushing. We need more tariffs. In fact, I'm going to do another video later on today about how the tariffs are just kicking ass and taking names. And we'll continue to do so at least for another, 16 years? Because Trump's going to get another term. So that'll be 3 terms for Trump. Then J.D. Vance is going to get 2 terms. The anti-Trumpers going, Trump, 3 terms. Anyway, so let's go with this. This is funny. All right, so we got campaign. The GOAT promised that he would eliminate all taxes on Social Security. The House passed the big, beautiful bill that does not include this provision, but does increase the additional standard deduction for seniors. While both policies would generate little economic growth relative to their costs and increase the deficit, they are having differing impacts on households depending on where their incomes reside in the distribution. So let's go all the way down. Check this out. So here's Trump's bill. All right, you can see distribution effects on no tax on Social Security and increased standard deduction. This is the House bill. This is what Trump proposed. So let's take a look. What you'll see in here, the increased standard deduction will give the overall people on Social Security an increase in their after-tax income 0.2%. 0.2% according to the tax foundations, and we'll just run with it. I mean, who knows? But yet Trump's no tax on Social Security would give 3 times that, a 0.6% increase right here. Percent change in after-tax market income. All right. But the difference is, look, right here, the 60 to 80 income percentile will be a significant increase in Trump's no tax on Social Security, but be less for the standard deduction. The benefits for the increase in standard deductions are on the market. So basically the middle class right there, 20 to 60%. That is the middle class. And the lower middle class, they're going to get the vast majority of the benefits. So they're going to get 6 times this percentile, the market income percentile, 20 to 40%, are going to get 6 times the benefit on the House bill than the Trump bill. All right, and a little bit about, 25% more benefit on the 40 to, right here in the middle class, literally right there in the middle class. They're going to benefit 25% more, but it's only 0.5%. 0.5% on market, whatever. Okay, if you don't want to, give it to me. I'll take your 0.5%. And so you can see at the end of the day where the big benefits on the Trump bill apply to the 8 right in here. Basically over 60% is the market income. So the higher earners. And that doesn't bother me at all. People are like, oh, it's the higher earners. No, I don't care. But at the end of the day, you get this benefit right here is more so for the lower income people for the House bill than the Trump is more for the higher income people. And that I don't care. I don't care. It doesn't bother me. You can say the higher income people get more money on it. I don't care. But at the end of the day, where are the voters? The voters are going to be right in this category right here. So right, you can see right there. Now, this is what I'd still like to see the House bill do a little bit better, but be it as it may, we'll take it. So, because they're not going to get the no tax on Social Security, because the House has already passed their bill. It's going to go to reconciliation. I don't think. Well, I mean, we'll see. But you can see right here, exempting Social Security from income taxation will not change the after-tax tax income for the bottom quintile at all, right here, because they don't pay any tax as it is. The tax cut would be tilted more towards the higher income households than the proposed $4,000 deduction. The top quintile will see his after-tax income increase by 0.6%. Overall, this increased senior deduction would deliver a larger tax cuts to lower, middle, and middle-income households comparing to exempting all Social Security benefits from taxation, and would not weaken the trust funds. All right. But given the temporary nature of the policy, it would increase the deficit impact. I don't care about that. Anyway, the point, I'd much rather have Trump's no tax on Social Security. It's just easier, 100%. You got Social Security, don't pay tax on it. I'm not sure it's going to come to fruition this cycle. But at the end of the day, there's still benefits to be had in the House bill. So, hey, man, that's going to create the deficit. I want to show you something here. This is pretty interesting. Check this out. I think Kelton, she's a big lib, and she's a modern monetary economist, but I completely agree with her take here. And, I don't agree with her take on, I would guarantee, about 95% of the other things. I'm sure she's in favor of unlimited abortion, men playing women's sports, freaking unlimited financing Ukraine and Israel, completely immigration, saying we need more DEI, white men need not apply. I don't know that's true, but these liberal women, you know that. But here she's right. A reminder that on the other side of a bigger government deficit lie bigger surplus for the rest of us, collectively. In this respect, the government budget is always in balance because financial deficits and the surpluses exactly offset one each other right here. And you can see the government deficit is a household surplus. Households in the, let's see, I want to go right here. The CBO estimates on an average household resources would increase from 2026 to 2034, mainly because of reductions in how much households owed in federal taxes. The effects on household resources would vary by channel across the income distribution. So the deficit is causing more money from the government, is causing more money to you, as witnessed by this right here. I completely agree with that. I think she had something else in here I wanted to, let's see here. Right here, households in the 5th and 6th deciles, as the middle of the income distribution, would see their resources increase by $500 and $1,000 respectively, while because of the deficit the federal government is having. And as I always say, as Republicans clearly understand, every deficit is good for someone. The question I ask is for whom? CBO is telling us that the one big beautiful bill uses the deficit to deliver huge windfalls that go overwhelmingly to the richest Americans. And, this is where the issue about tax cuts for the wealthy, the libs say you shouldn't have tax cuts for the wealthy. There's some legitimacy to the argument, by the way, because what she's going to say is tax cuts that go disproportionately to the biggest corporations, the wealthiest people in society, funnel riches into their buckets while millions of families struggle to keep their boats afloat. If the goal is broadly shared prosperity, then we need fiscal deficits that channel resources more equitably. For example, investing in healthcare, education, and public infrastructure won't just benefit the medical professionals, but it'll benefit the construction workers who get paid to do those jobs. I would say instead of doing that, just give stimulus. Look, I love infrastructure programs and stuff. I think we need infrastructure. Don't get me wrong. We spend enough on schools, 100%. We spend enough on hospitals, 100%. These hospital guys, because it's basically essentially what they call it, not a monopolist. There's a term for it where it's not an oligarchy. Anyway, I can't remember what it's called. But we have the hospital industry is not very competitive. We know that for a fact. But anyway, giving tax cuts that go proportionally to the wealthy doesn't flow back in terms of increasing the velocity of money. We can see this now. The velocity of money has gone way down, even though we've had tax cuts since basically George W. Bush. And the velocity of money is what goes into the economy. And this is where Keynes was right. Even though Keynes was a pinko, he's actually not a pinko. But he said, hey, it's a demand side economy. Reagan said supply side economy. There are some benefits to both supply and the demand. Supply creates its own demand, but you still have to have the demand in of itself. And if you give money tax cuts to the wealthy in of itself, they're just going to invest the money. Nothing inherently wrong with that. But if we want to stimulate economic activity, you got to put money in people's pockets. And that's not the wealthy because they already have enough money. They hoard it essentially with investments. With people, what they'll do, they'll pay down debt, which will increase because remember, debts are always deflationary. When you got to start spending more, because you already spent the money. Now you got to spend that money you're getting to pay off the debt you had. So that doesn't do anything in terms of creating prosperity for your local baker, candlestick maker. But if you get a dollar bill, you're either going to pay off your debt, which means the next dollar bill you can spend as opposed to paying off your debt, or you're going to spend it, you're going to consume it, one of those two things. Or you might invest it. The likelihood of the lower middle class and middle class people investing it isn't very high. If I get a $100 stimulus check today, I'm not investing. I'm paying down debt or I'm going to consume it, as you would too, I can almost guarantee you. And so that's why if we want to stimulate the economy, you can't just give tax cuts that benefit the uber wealthy explicitly. And no one's doing that, I grant you. But what you want to do is do a stimulus instead. And you do a stimulus instead of tax cuts, and that just generates people to have money in their pocket, 100%. And this is where I've completely changed over the last 10 years or so. Because I always give, the trickle down economic theory. Some of it made sense. The wealthy spend their money and we get a portion of that. It just hasn't shown. Let's just go back to velocity of money. I'll show you right here. So let's just real quick. Let's see. When fiscal deficits help low and middle income families, these dollars aren't hoarded into offshore bank accounts. 100%. They get spent back in the economy, the local economy. Absolutely. The point is not every deficit serves a broader public good. Deficits, okay, anyway, so let's go to, here's a velocity of money. So remember, it started going down right about 1997. And look at that. So with Bush got tax cuts, it went down. I mean, so we got tax cuts for 2008, 17 tax cuts. It just has gone down ever since. So you cannot sit there and say the tax cut. I mean, you can see right here Reagan's tax cuts right there. Velocity of money went down and then started going up again right here. So you can't say tax cuts means the velocity of money goes down or tax increases makes the velocity of money go up. You can't say that because look, it's just flat here. But at the end of the day, the velocity of money has gone down significantly, while the high tax rates have gone down significantly as well. Now, when I say high tax rates, we're still above where we were under Reagan. But still, in 1982, Reagan had, or was it? I can't remember. But let's actually see if I can. Here's the velocity of money on the left-hand chart. This is right here. Here's a corporate tax. Let's just go back to 1959. Boink, 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 boink. We're going to go 1959. All right, right there. And we're going to hit that guy. Boink. All right, so here's the tax rates right here on the right scale, the highest tax rates. And you can see right here, we had highest tax rates at 90% were the highest tax rates. And no one's paying 90%, but still, that was the highest tax rate. And you can see that's when we had velocity of money right there, about 1.8 or so. All right, so then the tax rates, you can see they went down significantly right there. All right, that's under Reagan's term, Tax Reform Act, and the TEFRA tax. I can't remember what TEFRA stands for, but anyway, was it TEFRA? Yeah, something like that. So the tax rates went down, the velocity of money went up, but they didn't really go up. They stayed flat until right there, 1991 is when the velocity of money really started. I guess you could say right there. 1987. So the tax rates went down again. It's just the highest tax rates went down again. But they did suck more money to be taxable. So the rates went down, but the amount of money subject to income taxes went high, and that's just a fact. So you can see the velocity of money started going up. Clinton's tax increase in 1993 to include taxing Social Security. The velocity of money still going up, and then you can see right there is when it topped off, and it's been going on ever since. So you got the Bush tax cuts, you got a little bit of increase right here under Obama, you got another drop. So are they relative to the income tax rates? Probably not. But at the end of the day, the facts are we've had a significant drop in tax increases or taxes under Bush, and we haven't seen the velocity of money go up. And the reason for that is because of wealthy people who are getting all the money hoarded, and because they don't really get the income per se. I mean, they do, but generally speaking, they're getting it from stock appreciation. Stock appreciation isn't cash money that they have necessarily until they sell it. So it's not the same thing. But where I'm going with this is at the end of the day, if we want to increase the velocity of money, you've got to increase the lower end scale for people to receive more of that money. And the increasing the velocity of money does stimulate economic activity in your neighborhood, most likely. And so what I'm going to show you now here is the real median wages. And you can see it went from 335. So you can see right here, employed full-time median usual week real earnings. That's real net of inflation. 335 all the way to a high of 373. So it's gone up by 40 bucks, $40 a week and that's real since 1979. So again, it's gone up very, very slowly. So what's that? So let's just use our trusty calculator. It's 335 in 1979 and it's 373 in 2025. So let me just pause real quick. It's gone up 0.24% a year. That's it. So 1/4% a year is a real wages have gone up, all right, and that's not going to get the job done. And so you can see why the velocity of money is shrinking, because people are like, dude, the cost of my house is going skyrocketing relative to, in fact, let's just look at median house prices. So the house, let's go back to 1979, make this even Steven, everybody. Boink, 1979, January. So you can see the house prices have gone from, that's the blue, from a median sales price, and this is nominal, not real, but we can still subtract basically 3% a year off. So you can see right here, it's gone from 60,000 to 416. 60,000 is our present value. 416 is our future value. 0, and that means the house price has gone up by 4.29%. With just simplicity, for simplicity, take off inflation. We'll just say 3 for simplicity. So the price of house have gone up 5 times the price of labor, all right, the price of wages. So that's why people are using less and less velocity of money, because you can see it now. The nice thing is people are paying off debt. The debt to income ratios are way low. In terms of households' financial strength is actually quite strong relative to debt. So that's a good place to be. But I'm not going to say people are hoarding money, but they're using more and more of their earnings to pay off debt. because the price of houses going up and all this stuff. This is just a fact, dude. And as such, they're not using it to contribute as much in terms of buying from the bread maker, candlestick maker, the baker, the candlestick maker. What's the other one? Anyway, the baker, and the candlestick maker, because they have to use all that money to pay off debt. Anyway, so what's happening is if we give the velocity, if we give more money to the upper wealthy, I know it's a long video. I didn't plan on doing this long, but it's not beneficial to the middle class or lower middle class because they don't spend it like you and I would. If we got the money, we're going to spend it to do one of two things: pay off debt or consume. If the uber wealthy get it, they're going to do basically they're going to freaking sniff it up their nose, or they're going to hoard it, investing it. And nothing inherently wrong with that. But if the stimulus of the economy is what we're trying to get, a jumpstart of the economy from Main Street, that's where the money needs to go. It's the lower middle class and middle class people. Love your thoughts. God bless, and we'll see you guys.